Hey guys, Youngblood with you for another episode of Captain's Log, and today I wanted to talk about how to survive longer in an ESF. In the current game environment, there's a lot of different things that are going to be attacking you in this game, whether it's another ESF or whether it's a burster or a skyguard or a turret or a lock-on. There's a little bit of everything that's designed to really counter you in that fighter. So, this is going to be kind of a list of things that are really just good for everyone to know, especially for newer pilots that are just coming into the game. There's a higher resource cost and mostly more skilled pilots that are in the air. So it's going to be really good for new folks to kind of have an idea of how you can stay alive a little bit longer while piloting your craft. So some general tips I wanted to get into. Saving your afterburners is going to be really important. Now, it's really tempting to really try and use those to get into the battle quicker. But after a while, I found out that once you actually got into the battle and you started getting into heated situations and you needed to retreat, maybe you don't have that afterburner available. Also, the same for when you're fighting in a dogfight, you need to use those afterburners to get yourself into better situations. Well, if you expended all of that just trying to get to where you wanted to be, you can't get the hell out of dodge or get yourself lined up accordingly. So, really keep that in mind and try and conserve those. Now, you can obviously use them a little bit on your approach, but just make sure you're almost full by the time you actually get to your destination. Along those same lines, it's really important to make sure that you're not just going in balls to the wall. Like I said, it's tempting just to get into the battle and go to town. There's my dog shaking his collar. Stop it. Bear. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. It's important to know not just to go balls to the wall because you're going to need to scan your horizons and know what's actually going on. You want to evaluate the situation first. Check for active AA units. You want to make sure that you're looking for enemy fighters. If you're flying solo and you're going in over an amp station, there's a ton of anti-air turrets. Who knows if there's sky guards, and chances are there's going to be enemy fighters there. You're going to be overwhelmed and aren't going to have a real good chance. It's a good idea to kind of just sit on the outlier and keep an eye for a sec without just going straight in and barging through the wall and finding yourself in a lot of trouble very fast. Alright, sorry, I had to stop the recording to get my dog to shut up. Okay, so moving on, the general convention is to fly high and to kind of just dive bomb your targets. And in general, that's a pretty good plan because it gives you a great field of view and a good attack angle as well. The problem with flying high all the time is that just about every AA unit is typically looking up at the sky, trying to find you coming in. If you're talking about bursters, they're going to see you before you see them. If you're talking about sky guards, maybe you just think that they're a normal lightning from a ways out, and it turns out that they're actually a sky guard. Well, that's a problem. If you know that there's active AA in an area, consider coming in really low. Now, of course, you're going to be more vulnerable to lock-ons and tanks and ground-based AA, but it's another good option that might catch people off guard. Checking the situation first is always going to really help you out with that. Keep in mind when you're talking about like phalanx turrets, they can only point so far down, so you can kind of sneak up on them a little bit by coming in low. But I mean, more than anything else, it's going to help you out because it's the element of surprise. Another just general tip, when you're sitting there potting or attacking people on the ground, specifically at a base, like a towers are typically really bad at this, make sure that you're really keeping an eye out for friendly ESFs or libs in the area. You may have the skills to know not to crash into somebody else, but you don't know that they don't have the skills to crash into you. I don't know if I said that right, but you get what I'm getting at. Ultimately, you just want to keep an eye on the situation around you, and when you put yourself into those situations close to your target, you're likely to get hit and run into. That's going to shorten your lifespan considerably, and especially considering it didn't come from an enemy, it's especially frustrating. You don't necessarily need, if you're running auto repair, which I generally suggest, you don't need to wait for your auto repair to fix your vehicle. You're going to be waiting for time. Sometimes it's going to take a while to take you all the way back up, even at the high levels. I use it more as a supplemental tool. I use it to repair as I'm backing off the battleground, and then I typically land and repair. Not only just because I'm impatient and I want to get back into the fight as quickly as I can, but also just because you never know when something's going to find you. In a game of this scale, there could be a random harasser driving by that's going to light you up. Maybe there's another fighter or a high-flying liberator that's just waiting for you to land and then they take you out. You don't need to necessarily just sit there and wait for your auto repair to kick in. Get out, use your engineer, which I always suggest flying as engineer. And then just kind of help supplement that auto repair so you're back in the fight a little bit quicker and you're putting yourself out of harm's way a little bit quicker as well. Along the lines with auto repair, the last thing I choose in this kind of general tips area is choosing your setup accordingly. If you know that an area is going to be crawling with flak-based AA, then a composite armor setup is probably going to be working a little bit better for you than auto repair. Now, in general, I suggest a high-level auto repair, but you can really customize it based on the threats that you know you're going to face. In general, I feel that the flares are going to be more important than fire suppression, just because you're going to get more bang for your buck in the long run. You're going to get to use it more often, and it's more beneficial in more situations. Now, when we start talking about how to deal with anti-air, there's a couple general tips that can really help you out. The first one's pretty straightforward, and that's don't fly straight at them. You're not going to win in a one-on situation, and even if you survive, you're going to be on fire and going to be an easy target for just about anybody else in the situation. So in general, if you're getting attacked by a turret, you want to peel off and kind of head in another direction. Let your other forces take those out. When you do peel off and you're being engaged, be erratic. Flying in a straight line is really easy to continue to keep their fire on you. So I suggest doing barrel rolls, hook a left, hook a right. You can even just wiggle your mouse around a little bit. It's going to change your flight path. It's going to make it harder for them to track you, and you're going to take less damage. Ultimately, flying away in a straight line or flying towards them in a straight line is going to get you killed. So you want to make sure that you're being a little bit creative. I personally got to have some fun with it in those situations. It's almost like that thought of, see if you can get me. So yeah, just have some fun, get creative. The more creative you are, the better chance of you surviving that situation. Now, if you're fighting, let's say, a Skyguard on a cliff or bursters on a pad, in general, you want to make sure that you're dropping low, so you're breaking that line of sight. Now, a burster or a Skyguard could obviously push forward and aim down a little bit further if they wanted to, but you're flying so fast that you have an opportunity to separate yourself a little bit, and especially with the changes to bursters now, it's going to be harder for them to hit you the farther you are away. So that time where they have to reposition themselves to shoot you is going to keep you alive for a lot longer. So, kind of know the situation, where the threat's coming from, and retreat or just move away to another target accordingly. Now, if you catch a burster by surprise, like you come up behind them, I suggest starting with your nose gun. And the reason for that is because you have enough time to actually line up your shot and put a lot of damage in, especially if you're using a rotary, or the other faction's equivalents. Not only does it do a lot of damage to the bursters, but it's also going to give you an opportunity where when you start getting shot, you can be a little bit more sporadic. If you're running pods, you can use some of that splash damage to help finish off your target. Now, if you're catching a Skyguard off guard, that sounded funny, make sure that you're lining up your rockets and you're really getting those ones right into his rear as quickly as possible. And yes, I just said right into his rear. But yes, we all know that's the most sensitive and delicate spot, so make sure that you're landing him where you should be. It's going to have a better chance of taking him out, or at least making him try and move where you can escape accordingly. Alright, now I've already done a video in the past on dealing with lock-on missiles, and I'll post a link in the description for that so you can actually go back and watch that. So I'm not going to rehash everything I talked about there. In general, some other tips though. Flares aren't going to let you just sit there and take lock-on after lock-on missile. You also don't really know how many people are locking onto you. So whenever you're getting locked onto, I wouldn't ever suggest just sticking around. If you're running away, you can always pop flares to avoid the damage and then further lock-ons as you retreat. You get that 5-second window where you're not able to be locked on again. If you're retreating to make another pass and you're at full health, maybe you take the one hit, save your flare, and then you can just land and repair and head back and attack again. It's going to really kind of depend. If there's a full squad locking onto you, you're going to have to really pop that and get the hell out of there because you're likely going to take a lot of damage from a lot of missiles. So you want to really be aware of the situation that you're in and respond accordingly. The last thing I wanted to talk about today is really surviving a little bit more in dogfights. Now, in a dogfighting setup, and if you're planning on getting into dogfights, your defensive slot should always be the auto repair. Hopefully you can avoid some fire long enough for it to actually, benefit you. In addition, the composite armor is not going to help you out in that situation anyways. Sure, stealth can be beneficial too, but I personally just don't ever really use it very often. So your mileage may vary a little bit more if you're deciding to stay off their radar. You may have a benefit as far as being able to escape or get yourself into a better position, especially if it's in one of those long circling dogfights. Now, speaking of those circling dogfights, those are the ones that last forever, tend to attract a lot of attention, and you're likely to have somebody that's going to come up and finish you to help out their buddy. So, I want to make sure that you're always getting nose-to-nose with them. Do a reverse turn, just do a pitch-out turn, and then you want to kind of hover, use your thrusters, and keep yourself in position where you can actually stay nose-to-gun or nose-to-nose with the enemy. If they're circling, you've got an easy target. If you're going nose to nose, accuracy is going to reward you, but guess what? Even if you continue to circle, they're not going to be doing that, and they're going to be able to continue to put damage on you. So if you're not comfortable in that type of dogfight, practice with yourself. Go into the VR and practice with a buddy, or just get out in the real world. And by real world, I mean the non-VR, and just engage other people and get comfortable with it, because it's going to help you survive a lot longer. Now, most of the time in dogfights, you just need to come to the realization that it's going to be hard for you to run away. It's not impossible, but it's going to be challenging, because if you're running away, chances are you're doing it because you're already almost dead. Well, you don't want to be running away with somebody that's almost the same speed as you, trying to attack you and kill you from behind when you can't do any damage to them. So, if you are going to run away, make sure you're choosing the right time to do it. If you maybe see them circling in the opposite direction that you want to go, that's really going to be your only chance to get out of there and put enough distance between you and them to maybe get to a point where there's friendly AA, or maybe there's your warp gate. You need to choose your opportunity if you're going to run, but just come to terms with the fact that in general, it's not going to be your best bet. Now, another one, I mentioned friendlies crashing into your bases. Make sure that you're aware that some enemies are planning to crash into you. Others do it on accident. I've done it on accident myself. But essentially, if you get too close to an enemy that's turning quickly, they can come right back in and ram you. Sometimes it'll kill you, sometimes it'll kill them, sometimes it's going to just throw you into a spin and you're going to crash into a tree or the ground or something else. Just know that that's a problem that you're going to run into out there, and it's something that you're going to need to be aware of. Keep your distance a little bit. You want to be close, but not too close. It's kind of that Goldilocks zone. And then the very last thing is try to fly with at least one wingman. Now, you can obviously go out as a single fighter and be very successful. That being said, if there's two of you, your chances greatly improve. If you're working together, even better. But a wingman doesn't even need to know that you're flying with them to be more successful and be able to live longer. People are flying because they want to engage other fighters of the ground. They want the points. That's why we're all playing. It's part of the game. So with that in mind, if you've got somebody that's on your tail and circling you, that other person that's in the same region as you is going to come over and try and help you out, whether they are communicating with you or not. It's just how it's going to be. So try and fly as a group, try and fly with another fighter, whatever it is, it'll help you out in the long run. So that's pretty much it. That's my quick list on some general tips to help you stay alive a little bit longer. The video in the background is hopefully showing off some of that stuff. It's hard to get all of this recorded and put into different areas. So if there's any confusion, please feel free to ask questions. If you've got other tips, please put them in the comments so we can share with everybody and help everybody live a little bit longer in the air. But yeah, that's pretty much it for now. So I appreciate you guys watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button for a lot more content. And I will talk to you guys later. Take care.